Welcome back to Beyond the Wrench. My name is Jay Goninen, and I am your host. On today's episode, we get to chat with Sue Dickson and Jack Wilson from Give Me 10. If you recall, we had Sue and Jack on an episode almost exactly 2 years ago to talk about the Give Me 10 program, and we wanted to revisit that because there's been a lot of things that have either changed or been updated, and just want to get a recap on the program as a whole. So, how are you guys doing today?
We're doing great.
All's good.
All is good. All is good. We had a bit of technical difficulty getting onto the podcast, so the fact that we're actually here to do the podcast is an accomplishment in itself. We're good to go. So Sue, give me an update on everything. Maybe let's start with a recap of what Give Me 10 is, and then we can kind of go from there.
Jack and I met at a advisory meeting, and the Give Me 10 concept is basically how do we partner with education in a simplified form? Because when we look at education, sometimes things get kind of very complicated. We want to simplify it. We want to partner with education. We want to provide a learning experience in a safe environment. And then we don't want to kind of interrupt our workflow. So I kind of looked at this and tried to look at both sides of the coin, in education side and industry side, and tried to make it so both sides could benefit from that relationship. And that started 7 years ago. And since then we've grown exponentially to where, I mean, we've just have a lot of branches off the tree, so to speak.
And what's really cool about what Sue did was that need came from her own shop. And if you recall, we talked in the past episode about how she got involved with other shops, the importance of getting other shops to come on board with her. And at the time, it was a little bit more localized, right? Now you're kind of spreading your wings and expanding the program. Talk to me a little bit about that part, and maybe expanding outside of the territory that you had initially worked in.
So we kind of looked at, just the tech campus and our local shops, and we try to look at how can we partner and start this grassroots type of program, and look at the different things that we all fear, like workman's comp. How do we bring a student into our environment and have it be safe? How do we partner with education? So it's a benefit to education and also to the local shops. And how do we grow our own, train our own in our own environment so they don't have those bad habits that they come into us already, right? Jack had the same vision. So I think it was great because we were both in the same spot 7 years ago. And what's great about it is I bring the industry side to it, and Jack brings the education side, and we try to work together for the benefit of the student.
So Jack, talk me through that side, the education side, and where the benefit has really come into play for you with Give Me 10.
Well, I've been in the automotive business for about 25 years. I've been teaching for them for the past 18. And for the first decade of my career, work-based learning isn't anything new. Internships aren't anything new. They go back to the core foundations of education. But getting them set up nowadays with all the red tape, all the issues with insurance and all the issues with workman's comp and all the issues with students under 18. And there's a lot of misinformation out there as well, as opposed to what you can do versus what you can't do. And oftentimes, at least on my end, I found that, whenever I would approach a business and say, hey, would you be willing to take in a student on a job shadow or internship? They would just come to the easiest possible conclusion, which is just no, because it sounds like work and I don't know how it works. And we were too busy. So, every once in a great while when I would actually be able to land a student, work-based learning opportunity, get everything set up, get the ball rolling, and get the student placed. By the time the next school year would roll around, that person would no longer work there. So then we're just kind of starting all over again, and it was very defeating. It was very deflating. It was very exhausting. So it just kind of it was kind of there off to the side, but not much was happening. When Sue and I met, I shared my frustrations with her, my angst with her, and what things that we'd like to do. But we needed a group to be able to do it in, and almost a circle of people that would be willing to share the vision and take on the idea that it's not about making money this second. It's about looking at the issues that we have in our business. It's about looking at the shortage of skilled labor that we have in our country, and how can we create a program where it's reciprocal, right? Like Sue said, it benefits the student, it benefits the business, it benefits the industry, it benefits education as a whole. And that's where Give Me 10 was born. The premise of Give Me 10 is, will you donate 10 hours to a student? And I have yet to talk to a business partner, whether it's a cold call or whether it's just in a passing conversation, and you pose that question for them to say, nah, I don't want to do that. You're like, come on. At minimum, you're going to say, well, tell me more about that. What does that mean? What does that look like? How does that work? And so a lot of times when you get done explaining it, they go, wait. Now, so what you're saying is I only get to spend 10 hours with the student? Like, okay, well, now we got you interested, which is where the name comes from, which is where the concept comes from. The 10 hours opens the door to the conversation, which is exactly what I just described. It opens the door to what can we do with these students in this amount of time. It gives that business kind of like the opportunity to kind of test drive the student, the school, the fit. It gives a student very low risk start into the business, where it's not, hey, this is a career for the rest of your life. This is 10 hours during class time, split up over 3 weeks, over 5 visits, for them to have an opportunity, for them to feel what the business is like, for them to try it on for size, right? Because a lot of people like to say that, well, kids should just know that. Really? So tell me when you gave them an opportunity to try it, right? And then they go, oh, well, it's not me. Okay, well, then how do we know anything, right? How do the students know anything? Well, they're only going to know what we've shown them. They're only going to know the opportunities that have been laid out before them. So that was the model that was put together between Sue and I back in that first year that we met. And that first year that we met, we placed about 6 students in automotive-based opportunities. Fast forward to the 7th year of implementation, I have a student body of 58 second-year auto service students. And last time I looked at my spreadsheet, I got 35 placements.
All right.
So that's pushing 2/3 of my class that are out in the workplace. Not to say every single one of those is going to be a forever employee. That's not the idea. The idea is for them to try it on for size, for them to take a breath of what the automotive industry has to offer. Maybe they're going to find out that maybe a tech's not right for me. Maybe I want to be an advisor. Maybe I want to be on the training side of things. Maybe I want to be on the collision side of things. Maybe I want to be on the parts side of things. They don't know what they don't know. The other thing that's I'm really liking that I'm seeing this year is I have a lot of students that express that they want to be, small shop owners. So I communicate this when the student goes out to these small shops. So they're taking time with those students and going over the books with them, showing them this is what it takes to run a business, right? Because owning a business and being a technician, it's kind of 2 completely separate things. Right.
Sure is.
We have this grandiose idea that we're just going to be, building a 69 Mustang and running our business, and that's what it looks like. Well, we all know that that's not quite what it is. But again, they don't know what they don't know. But these are all opportunities for the business owners to share with these students, and for the students to learn from these people and learn all this valuable information.
You said something that was really interesting to me and is very similar to the experience that I've found even within my own family shop, right? And we went on this kick to start this year to get more job shadows into the shop. And at first, when you approach, say, the service manager in this case, there was resistance to, like, not even like resistance to it, just like, wait a minute, what are we doing? Like, why are we doing this? And, I'm already so busy. I don't have time to babysit somebody else to come in. And I said, no. You need to reframe your thinking here a little bit. You know how hard it is to get technicians. You need to work on manufacturing your technicians. You need to really be able to have a system in place that's going to help them understand what the industry is. You understand who the person is. so that you can see if there's a fit. And, ideally you would love to have that person come out and be a long-term employee, but you're almost doing them as much a favor, and really both sides, to where maybe that tech or that young person comes in and says, hey, you know what? I thought I'd love this, but I don't. Or if they do come in and they do love it, laying out a path to be able to really drive that success in their career in something that they actually love, rather than trying to force it down somebody's throat. Right. And I think what you're talking about in getting those 10 hours gives you it gives you so much ability to be able to learn who that person is and see if they truly have the chops to want to be in this industry. And so I think it's so cool.
And isn't it funny that when you think about it and you start putting it that way, wouldn't it be wonderful if we could do that to all employees before hiring them?
100%.
Think of that,
100%.
right? And
Yeah.
so with my school this year, we're now in control of a $40,000 paid internship grant that I'm managing with a colleague of mine. And so we're putting the carrot on the stick further. So after the 10 hours, we do an evaluation with the student. And if we have what's called a match, meaning that the business partner says, yep, we love this individual, we see potential, we want to keep working with them. The student says, hey, I love going there, I want to keep learning. Then we put them into the Tech 50. And the Tech 50 is 50 hours of paid time. So now we got a carrot on the stick to say, hey, you can make a little cash, right? And continue to learn. Now, if you do the adding, you do the addition of the numbers, we have 10 hours in the Give Me 10, we have 50 in the Tech 50. What we're actually doing with that is 60 hours total, which meets the Illinois state requirement for our career pathways endorsement. So in the state of Illinois, we have a career pathways endorsement that's been passed for the graduating class of 2027. So that's our current freshmen, that they can now elect one of 6 career pathways to be endorsed on their diploma. So the idea is we're trying to make the high school diploma mean a little more, right? Have a little more value to it, to show that there's some training attached to it. So the transportation industry is part of META, I believe, METT. It's manufacturing, engineering, something, transportation and technology. It's something like that. Don't quote me on the exact term, but I know we're in the META or the METT cluster. And for any student to get that endorsement, there's many things that they have to accomplish. But one of the things they have to accomplish is a 60-hour internship. So with the Give Me 10 plus the Tech 50, which the Tech 50 is just an extension of the Give Me 10, really nothing different about it. We are able to each student to earn that 60 hours of internship credit. And that's another interesting thing that the states are doing, because right now career tech ed and which what used to be called vocational education, and people back in my age and older know what voc ed was, but they don't call that anymore. It's been kind of reinvented into career tech ed, and career tech ed is really on the cusp of education. And at one time it wasn't. At one time, it was kind of like right there with the alternative school. Hey, you're not cut out for the 4-year degree. Let's put you over here. But now career tech ed, we're going, oh, wait, we don't have trained people in this country. We don't have we have this major shortage in trained individuals for our industrial technology in those different areas. So with that, we're putting a whole bunch of emphasis on, here we go, wait for it, work-based learning and internships, going back to the beginning, right? So now the various states want all the different education facilities, starting at the middle school level, to have career exploration activities, to have all these things, and then leading up to the capstone, which is a work-based learning experience. Right. So now you have educators running around going, oh, okay, we got to do these things, but in the typical fashion, we're going to say that you need to do this, but we're not going to show you how to do it. Right. We're not going to show you how to implement this, because the reality is you got to build these relationships with all of your local business partners. And that's what Give Me 10 does. Give Me 10 is a kickstart to your work-based learning model. And it's a start to how to build relationships within the community with your business partners. How do you have those conversations? So our school has endorsed Give Me 10 school-wide. I personally have helped place students in collision repair. I have placed students in building trades. I know there is placements in culinary arts. There is placements in computer technology. There's placements in medical assisting, early childhood education. So yes, we're having the conversation about auto service and the automotive industry in this podcast, but Give Me 10 is the model for work-based learning placement and how to build those relationships and how to make a meaningful, lasting work-based learning experience for the students, regardless of your choice of path within your industry.
And regardless of which path you go, it is really important that you understand what that path actually means, right? I think back to maybe when I was a freshman in high school, I was a little bit lucky because I had exposure to our industry for several years at that point, but there are a lot of people that might watch a car movie and say, "Oh, that's what I want to do." And then they get in and they're like, "Yeah, actually not really." But until they actually get in and get their hands dirty and get into a shop environment or any of those other trades, right? Anything else that you can get in and get exposure to, I think it's great. And the 10 hours it's not an insignificant amount of time. I think it's bite size enough for a business to be able to bring them in and not think that you're signing up for something that's going to take continual watching. But then, hopefully they see, hey, this isn't quite as hard as we thought it was. And then hopefully we roll them into the additional 50 and really, I think it's a good system. Thank you for listening to Beyond the Wrench. We'd like to take a minute to talk about this week's sponsor, Machinists Union District Lodge 77. The American economy was built on the automobile and truck industry, and Machinists Union District Lodge 77 has proudly represented employees in this vital sector since 1942. Machinists Union District Lodge 77's membership is as diversified as the area it services. With a centralized office located in Van Nuys Heights, Minnesota, Machinists Union District Lodge 77 represents and services about 2,600 members from multiple industries, including independent automobile and truck repair and automotive truck dealerships in Minnesota and Wisconsin. A union job means the guarantee of a contract. A contract is a legally binding and enforceable document which establishes wages, hours, and terms and conditions of work. If you are interested in organizing or negotiating a contract at your shop or dealership, or if you'd like more information, please call Machinists Union organizer Jeannie Uloa at 630-809-2249 for a confidential conversation. Now, Sue, on kind of going back to the industry side, as we approach these businesses, and obviously these businesses are in a world of hurt for talent, are you starting to see them maybe take it a little bit more seriously, that they do need to grow that next generation of talent?
I think everybody's starting to look, you've got to look kind of like outside the box on how I can develop my own employee. How do I look at this? When we go and say internships, apprenticeships, paid situations or whatever, a lot of the smaller businesses don't want to get involved. Okay. This here just gives you, where you're just kind of opening the door and you're kind of taking a look, right? And then once you kind of get involved with the school and you see the potential, some of these kids are sharp and they're coming in and you can develop them into a full-time employee, right? So you don't want to test the waters and spend a ton of money on somebody who, maybe this isn't their field. They haven't determined their interests, right? So now we're just saying, okay, this is the automotive field. What interests you? Do you like this? Do you like collision? Do you like automotive repair? I like working with my hands. I like engines, but I really like motorcycles. Okay, so let's take our transferable skills, as Jack says. You're learning the basics, right? So now we can steer to another part of our industry. So when we look at the Give Me 10 model, or what Jack and I have been doing, it's kind of simplifying things, making the connection early on for these kids. And then the employer sees the potential, and then we can now invest our own money. Okay. I give a tool grant. So anybody that comes into my shop and I look at them and say, okay, this is a potential hire. You need all these tools, so let's give them a tool grant. So we give them a set amount of tools at a set amount of money, and those tools are mine until they complete that time frame. So it's growing them from the ground up to what you potentially need in your shop. And all of us need this, right? And whether it's culinary, whether it's automotive, there are so many different fields, and to earn and learn at the same time, to get this exposure in a safe environment, you're getting practical knowledge. You're getting, both sides of the coin, because you're in a controlled environment in the school, and now we've taken you out of the school, and now we're giving you an uncontrolled environment, and we're seeing vehicles that, haven't been taken apart 100 times. And we're kind of looking at everything: time management, what's your knowledge base, where you at, what kind of problem solving can you do? So, we check a lot of the boxes as we're training them. So it kind of really does fit when you think about it in the whole picture.
And I think too, the one thing, I don't mean to interrupt, but just
No,
I
you're
just have a
good.
thought, is I'm just finding on the 10-hour reviews. So as the students finish up the 10 hours in a lot of the different businesses I call, I mean, there's no doubt the students that I'm sending are pretty green. They're seniors in high school, but they haven't, spent that $30,000-$40,000 and gone to, a private trade school or whatever the case is, and then power fed a whole bunch of information. And sometimes you get those students, and then it's kind of, you have to almost unprogram them and then reprogram the way that you want to teach them. And that's been a lot of the feedback I've been getting is I've had a lot of positive feedback that they're kind of at a point where they have just enough where they're ready to dive in, but they haven't been, I don't want to use the word tainted because that's not the right word, but they haven't been kind of pushed a direction, where now they think that they have all this knowledge that maybe they don't. They're still kind of humble, and they're still really wanting and open and willing to learn, to see what the business has to offer them. So I just find that it's at a really good point. It's really a formidable age. I personally love working with seniors in high school. To me, it's such a, for them, a lot of them are scared, or they're trying to figure out which way they're going to go. But for me, I tell them on their first day, and we talk about it throughout the whole year, is that each one of my 58 kids this year, and same thing years previous and everything else, we're going to figure out what each of your paths are. And I'm not here to make you a technician. I'm here to help guide you to be what it is that you want to be. And if you don't know what that is, we're going to find some kind of direction, right? You may not graduate knowing exactly what it is, but we're going to have you going a certain way, right? And we're going to kind of give you some options to pluck from and some different choices to pick from, and because it still is exploration. I mean, some people don't figure it out till they're 40, and some people never figure it out. So, but I do think that what we're doing and the way that we're doing it is really allowing the students to really explore the idea. When you think about the benefits of the small business, there's so many cool things that come in. I had a student come in today, and he was just so excited running, and I gotta show you something. He turns around and he's wearing, a t-shirt from Dave's Transmission. I mean, they gave him a t-shirt, and he just thinks it's just the greatest thing in the world because now he's part of their team. Meanwhile, he's walking around the school with a Dave's Transmission t-shirt. The shop's right across the street, and think about advertising for them, right? And you think about that young man and then his family and the people that they know, and they go, oh yeah, they gave my student an opportunity over here, and there's a transmission shop right in town. And it's just the way the word spreads. It becomes a whole community-based effort, right? In the way that I view the tech campus with Give Me 10, and then we haven't even talked about workforce development, which, every county has their version of workforce development. Some are state overrun. I mean, they're all state run, but some are divided up into counties. Some are divided up kind of into quadrants throughout the state, but they all exist. And for all the small businesses or large businesses that don't know anything about workforce, you're really missing out. Certain from the education side, our students that are lower income have more what we call barriers, that would, prevent the student from succeeding, right? There's funds and there's dollars that are made available to those students. Every year we have students that go through workforce. If we have a workforce kid or multiple workforce kids, we can get 1,000, 2,000 hours paid internships. You're talking 6 months to a year, full-time paid through the state to continue the training, plus their education. The community college is paid for 100%. I mean, you can't go wrong there. And then the businesses that, whether you're a small, 2-3 bay shop, whether you're a dealer, you can capitalize on this. You just have to know which doors to knock on, and Give Me 10 can guide the way on that. We have a whole bunch of connections through workforce throughout the entire country to help unlock some of those opportunities as well.
You hit on a couple of key things there. And the first that I want to ask about is kind of that intersection between industry and education, and really what the expectation is when that student comes out of high school or maybe even out of a trade school. And I think when you're mentoring a young person in your shop, the more you can get them to understand the idea that the intent of school is to help you with the theory. It's to help you understand a system so that you could diagnose it or you can repair it at some point, but not coming out as an expert level technician. In most cases, I've seen some anomalies where they're just incredible technicians coming out of school, but that's the exception, not the rule, right? Typically, you're going to get a fairly green person coming out of school, and at times, I don't know that we as industry do a good enough job at explaining what school's meant to do. And in a lot of cases, I think it's because maybe industry isn't even 100% sure on what the intent of the school is, or what the point of the school is. It really is to give them a base level of knowledge, yet at times, and Sue, I'll start with you on this one. Sometimes the expectation of industry and what they are expecting out of a young technician is unrealistic. At least in my experience, it has been.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we've had some shops that think that they're getting an A tech. That's not what that's not what you're getting. Okay. You're getting somebody that's entry level. You're getting somebody that has the skill, the basic skills. How can you build on those skills? And where do we go with those skills once we have you determine that this is the industry of choice, right? This is when we need our industry supporters. This is where we need people to come in and provide training. We need some direction. Because I think what's happened after Voc Ed left, a lot of what happened was all these programs have shrunk. So the growth of where we're trying to go with our students is, where do we go? Like, where are we going to get this formal training? We don't want to send them to a for-profit type of education, right? So I think industry needs to kind of back up a little bit and say, hey, we need to meet education to make this work. And that's kind of the gap that Jack and I are having right now, is we need both of them to work together to grow that employee. So Jack's doing a really good job on his end, and I'm trying to get the industry buy-in to say, hey, you know what? Career and technical ed now is looking for us. Like, how can we work better with education and provide more? I've talked to the Garage Guru. We've got some things happening in the background there. There's a lot of talk, but there's not a lot of action right now. And so we're looking for some action on the industry side to basically, pump up our system here and get these kids in, get them the proper training. And everything doesn't have to cost money here. It's not about the what's the ROI and where we're going. We need to train them, and then all the other things will fall into place, right? Once we get the workforce involved, and once we start growing our workforce, everything will all fall into place after that.
Jack, do you see that same thing from through the eyes of an educator? And maybe I'll rephrase this a little bit, because what I think I see a lot of times are the shops and businesses in general that are the most unsuccessful at raising young people are the ones that are the most impatient, right? They're expecting that you're going to be turning hours right off the bat, and that there's not going to be comebacks, and the, the quality is going to be top tier. And then after 3 months, when that stuff doesn't happen, they get frustrated and say, this person's not working out, and the school didn't train them properly, and they kind of just chew them up and spit them out. I'm curious if you see that same thing through the eyes of an educator, or maybe it's a different take on what I just said there.
No, I mean, there's definitely, to be in this business, everyone has, they're just like an act, right? They just say, well, you were born to be a tech. I mean, there is a certain students that walk in every year and I go, yep, you, I can just tell. It's like you were
Yeah.
born with a wrench in your hand, and those are the ones for me. I don't need to work because those foundational skills are set, right? They're set in stone. I mean, they were taking the freaking wind up clock apart when they were 5 years old, and springs were flying and all sorts of stuff. And, that's just how they were. But then there's a lot of students that have the potential, they just haven't had the opportunity. And I think that's where the disconnect comes in, to realize that if you give them the opportunity and you kind of guide them through it, you're really looking to see if they're pulling away some of the more foundational concepts. So when you think about, okay, so when we're teaching engine performance, or we're teaching electrical diagnostics and things like that, we're looking to see, I'm watching to see that the student is connecting the dots on processes, right? So for example, last week, I had the students taking out blower motors one day. I had them taking out wiper motors another day. I had the students taking out horns another day. And, they're all different electrically controlled devices. And here, let's look at the wiring diagram and let's just jump power and ground to it. And let's watch it run. Okay, there goes the blower motor. There goes the wiper motor. Here's high, here's low. Oh, look at the horn sounding. And at the end of it, and I said, did anyone know why I had you do this? What was the point? Because we're not really diagnosing the car. For one, I just want you to see it work. I want you to see. So now in your mind, you go, okay, it's not working. So this isn't turning. This isn't happening, right? So let's back up to a diagnostic strategy and say, well, in your diagnostic strategy, if you have a part, whatever it is, electrical, mechanical, and it's coming in and it's not working, right? And if you run power directly to it, and it works. What did you just eliminate? Look at that diagram, and then they start cycling. Well, we know this works. We know this. Okay, so now what are we doing, guys? We are doing a process of elimination, right? It's like a big word problem, because I said, so when you think about how you diagnose something, you need to build in your back pocket your own diagnostic strategy. That is what we're talking about. Forget what the actual component is. Just back up and look. What are the steps I take to figure out the problem, right? And it's those kinds of foundational skills that need to be built at the earlier age, early on in education. And when you start going out to the workplace and they start repairing the vehicle, whether you're looking at a brake system or something in the engine or something in the fuel system, you're going back to that same diagnostic strategy, the flow chart, right? And you're trying to build the maps in the students' heads and how it's working. Right. So, and we do know that sometimes there's certain students that just don't get it. They just over and over and over and over and over again. And that's when you have the conversation with, is this really the right placement for you? It doesn't mean that you don't have a place in the automotive business. It means that maybe being a tech is not what's meant for you, but maybe being out as a service advisor, it is. Maybe on the parts side, it is. Maybe it just depends where where your valuable placement is and kind of how your mind works, right? Some of that they do have to kind of figure it out, and some of that we have to kind of help them figure it out. But so yes and no, on it just depends on, from the business standpoint, they really need, when they're bringing in students and they're working with students, those are the things you want to look for. Those, we want to see that they're really grasping on to those core concepts of strategies and how you go about figuring out a problem. But then backing up to what Sue was talking about, looking at industry partnerships, when you start talking about how do we get industry involved and how do we get buy-in, and you go, how can we help? Well, it can look like a lot of different things, depending upon the business size. They can take in a student, or 2 and give them a 10-hour experience. Some businesses aren't set up for that, or that's not really what they're looking for. That's okay. Sue mentioned Garage Gurus Drive, which is a national automotive aftermarket automotive training program that's all throughout the country. We're hosting our first internship training event on April 17th here at Tech Campus. Now, we allow Auto Wares Bumper to Bumper. They're a big supporter of our program. They give money towards the raffle car. They give parts towards raffle car. They ran a big promotion through BBB Industries last summer. They're gearing up again for April, May, and June this year. For every hosting site for any internship hosting site, any part that they purchase that's a BBB product, $1 per part. You go $1. Well, that's not much. Yeah, but if you sell 1,700 parts over 3 months, which is what we had last year, that's $1,700 that went into our tool scholarship fund that's hosted through our raffle car. So there's all sorts of different things. Drive and Garage Gurus, they're going to be hosting this internship training night where they're doing an ASE A5, so for brakes, test prep night. Right. So think about that. ASE A5 test prep. Well, if you're working towards or thinking about becoming ASE certified, A5 is probably where you're going to start, or one of the closer ones to start with, right? Brakes, something that most of my students feel very comfortable with and would feel comfortable with, be one of the easier, if you want to say, certifications to get. But we want to promote that, right? We want to promote the importance of ASE certification and being certified as a technician in our industry, which is our backer. And they're going to bring in those trainers on that night. Now, there's going to be other professionals in the industry that will be here for that training as well. But more than likely, if you're sitting for an A5 ASE test prep, you're going to be younger, newer to the industry. And then we're going to have about 30 of my high school interns there that night, free of charge to them. Right. So what's the point in that? Well, because it's awareness. It's a training opportunity. We're trying to step it up here. Right. So you're going for your 10 hours, then you get extended into your paid 50. Now you're getting invited in for some additional training at the technical level while still in high school. So there's another example of different, a different partner within the industry that is willing to give a little bit of time, right? They're already hosting it here. So is it technically costing them any money? No, it's not. It's just allowing it. It's opening the doors to say, hey, bring your interns in. We're already hosting this. And of course, we got a culinary arts program. So the culinary is doing like a taco bar. Great, right? Feed them and they will come. But at the end of the day, we're trying to bring more awareness to get more of the industry involved in some form, way, or fashion. So it doesn't always have to be $1, right? It can be time. It can be opportunity. So those are the different kinds of partnerships that we're looking for. And in turn, Garage Gurus, Drive, BBB, Auto Wares Bumper to Bumper, they are Give Me 10 endorsed sponsors of the program.
Did you know that WrenchWay offers free solutions to help auto, diesel, and CTE instructors connect with local shops and dealerships? Nearly 700 schools across the country have used WrenchWay to successfully get resources and support for their classrooms, such as tool and equipment donations, advisory committee members, shop tours and guest speakers, and much, much more. It's an easy way to bring education and industry together to promote and improve careers in automotive and diesel. There's no obligation, hidden costs, or fees. WrenchWay will always be free for instructors to use. Visit wrenchway.com and click on the For Schools link under Solutions to learn more and sign up. Direct link is in the show notes.
We also
Sue,
look
go
at
ahead.
stuff like we took some of our kids and we exposed them to Apex and we got them a scholarship. So these are some of the kids that have been in our program for a little bit. They turned 21, so they fit the bill of what this scholarship was, and they were given the opportunity to go to Apex for 2 or 3 days, go on the industry floor. Everything was paid for, and they got exposed to going to SEMA, going to Apex, taking some classes and seeing what our industry is in the bigger picture. So I think when you look at what Jack and I have done over the last 7 years, it started with 6 shops, and now we're, 30 plus students. We're starting to branch off to different skilled labor. We're really looking to reach out to any industry partner that is willing to give an opportunity to a student to show them what the industry is all about, because it's not all about just being a technician, right? There's so many different areas that you can be very successful, but the basics is that you do need to know how a car operates, right? You need to know the basics, and then we can move on from that point.
I think what Apex and SEMA has done over the years in terms of growing that student population that shows up down there is huge, right? Because you do get to see the cool side of our industry too. You do get to see the SEMA side of all of the cool vehicles, and then go to the Apex side and see maybe more of our industry type of stuff at play. I always think when I see students down there in Vegas, I'm like, you're poor teachers trying to wrangle all of you in Vegas. No.
Well, you should have seen us on Friday. We took just under 200 students, Auto 1, Auto 2, and Collision Repair to the World of Wheels in Chicago.
Oh boy.
So that was interesting. It was a great time. Now, there's another great example that is put on by oh no, I don't want to screw it up. What's one of the bigger aftermarket
O'Reilly's?
performance? No, it's performance. Not Jags. It's not Jags. It's
Summit?
what's the other one? Summit. Yep, it's
Yep.
Summit Racing. So Summit Racing puts on a student career day, and they host it the morning before the show kicks off. So they've been doing it, I think it's 19 years. We only started going it was pre-COVID, I want to say 2016 or 2017. So we've gone 7 or 8 years now. But they had over 1,500 high school and college students there, mostly high school though, from the Chicagoland area. And the World of Wheels kicks off. It always opens at like 3 or 4 in the afternoon on Friday. And they host it from 9 to 3. The first hour is presentations of professionals in the automotive industry talking about opportunity, et cetera, et cetera. And then they have a small career expo, and then the kids get to walk the floor, right? And they just get to see different parts of the business. So one thing I will say that was very disappointing is that the career expo didn't come through this year. And really, there weren't, and this is no way it goes against anybody that was running it, right? Because, the people that were there and the hosting people, worked very hard to make it happen. But why isn't there more sponsorship from manufacturer on the World of Wheels? Come on, this is countrywide. This isn't very hard to figure out to sponsor something for the students. In years past, Craftsman, Snap-on, Matco had been giving away tools. There was no giveaways this year. Come on. How much is it to give away a 300-piece Craftsman toolkit or do some different raffles for the students and get them excited about being there? There was zero zilch, representation from any of the tools or any of the automotive manufacturers for that matter this year. And again, that is not a blow to World of Wheels. That is not a blow to the people that were putting it together. That is just a disappointment, in my opinion, to the big heavy hitters in our industry that they couldn't pull it together.
Yeah, we need you the most. That is an opportunity. And I will say I almost had the opposite end of that in some level. We went to the Milwaukee Car Show here a week or two ago, and they had a Technicians of Tomorrow competition that we were a part of. And it was really cool to see the competition itself, similar to what Skills USA is, and allowing those kids to show off their technical skill, but then also seeing industry step up. And I give Deb at the Auto Dealer Auto Dealer Association of Mega Milwaukee a lot of credit for how she pulls it together. There was a really nice award ceremony at the end, and just hordes of tool giveaways. And I think it was a combo of manufacturers. I saw some parts distributors there, which I think the smart parts distributors get actively involved because they know who's writing their check essentially, right? It's the technicians that are installing the parts. And so yeah, I don't love to hear that. I did see the opposite side of that a couple weeks ago in Milwaukee, not too far up the road from Chicago. So there is hope there, but I do think, similar to how we started this conversation off, there's people that say that it's a priority for them, but then there's people that maybe say it and their actions don't reflect it. And I think that's a big issue in our industry. I think, even going back to when I was growing up in the industry, it was always tough to find techs. Like, it wasn't like this was a brand new thing. This has been going on for several decades at this point, but now it's gotten to the point to where it hurts a shop so much by not having physical labor in their shops to do the work, that now it's kind of kicked up a notch. And I just hope that those in the industry that are listening really do get actively involved and consistently, right? Not just when it's convenient for you, for your business, but genuinely being involved, because that's what it's going to take to right the ship on this entire thing. And Sue, you and I have had several conversations on how WrenchWay and Give Me 10 work together. And I don't know that we're quite there yet on how that works, but I think because our hearts are in the right place, that makes for an obvious partnership of some type. And the same thing goes with a lot of our partners too. There are some folks that really have it in their heart to help this industry. And then there are still some that, I think they talk like they want to, but then maybe their actions don't back it up. And for us to change this, we need everybody on board. We need everybody working together and trying to get that next level of talent out there, that next generation of talent out there. And then, trying to maintain and keep the ones that we already have in the industry. There's just so much room for everybody to add to this. And I think what's also interesting, and Jack, you probably see this as much as anybody, but it's not just our industry that's struggling for people, right? I think we live in kind of this shelled environment where we think it's just us, but every single skilled trade is desperate for people right now. So if you're like, you know what, it seems like they're doing a good enough job. They're Give Me 10's doing all the work. They can do it. They can solve the industry.
Shit.
It's not realistic, right?
No,
No.
no. And a couple of things on that. And I did want to point out, when I got up to grab, I did want to,
Shout out
give a
Summit.
shout out to Summit. I mean, hey, you know what? You guys were there and you showed up for the kids, and every single kid got one of these hats. They got stickers, they got swag. Good for you. It made the day really neat for them.
Which,
But you
by the
think
way,
about
I've supported Summit a lot lately. I'm working on a project and I've got a Summit box coming to my house like every single day.
nice.
So I love to hear they're supporting.
Well, and it's just about exposure for the students, and there are certain key players that I can think of that they're just not there. I mean, how do the students know what's next in their career, or how to take the career seriously if you're not a key player? So those events, when you think about how to show up for the students, how to get involved in those events, and you can't wait for those people to come knocking on your door. Go to them. These things are happening. They're all over the place. They're out there. And that's really what Sue and I need as well. We need that industry support where we can put on training seminars, and we can put on these different outreach programs to the youth, and to I'm one person, I can only go so far. Sue's one person, she can only go so far. But when other people start getting involved, and not just talk about doing it, but actually say, hey, you know what, I'm going to take this off your plate, and I'm going to make sure and see that this gets done, not one time, but continuously here moving forward, that will be fabulous. Because at the end of the day, let's talk about LMS systems for a minute. So learning management systems, right? So I know big industry loves them, right? Because they can get everyone signed on to a learning management system, and they can click on this software, and we can do learning module 1A, and then we can learn learning module 1B, and then we can go along, boom, 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 and we're gonna correct this problem, right? With the gap in the skilled technician labor shortage. No, that's not how it's going to work. It's not going to work that way. It's never worked that way. That can be a tool to use along with an internship program, a work-based learning program, a way to work with the students one at a time. And listen to when I say the fact that the correction for this issue is one student at a time. It's one match at a time. It's one business at a time. But if we can get a lot of different businesses, a lot of different support, and a lot of different industries on board to say, yes, I'm committed, we're going to start. Yes, I'm committed, we're going to start. Then we can slowly start turning this ship. A learning management system is not going to do that. It's just simply not. It is a tool to use along with all the other resources. But in order to do that, we need people that are committed day in, day out, year in, year out. It's not, I'm going to come in and do this one time and then bounce the next year. It has to be a constant commitment, and within your mission and your vision of your organization, to commit to this next generation of workforce and to commit to getting more people involved and more young individuals involved in our industry and industries. Because as you said before, it's not just automotive, right? It's every skilled labor industry out there.
It's funny you say the part about the LMSs because I'm lucky enough to speak to a lot of people that are working on these training programs and are trying to implement them. But one of the things I really get a kick out of, both from the OE side and the aftermarket side, are the amount of companies that think by doing that, that gives them kind of their roots within a program. And what I was trying to explain to somebody one day, and I didn't probably do the best job at explaining it, was they had just put together their own LMS. They were, they were gung ho. They're going to give it to every school that wanted it. And I said, that's great, except almost every OE at this point is also giving them a ability like an LMS to be able to take courses on. A bunch in the aftermarket are also doing it. And so you're kind of already behind when that was the case, right? Like that was your give to industry or to education, was that you were going to give them all of this training, when in reality, they've already got an abundance of different trainings to choose from that are given to them for free. And they didn't quite understand that, right? Like they didn't quite understand this was an aftermarket company that was doing it. I was like, I love that you're getting more involved, but the fact that you're missing the ball so far on the fact that you think this is a specialized thing that you're the only one offering is just not reality, right? Like there are so many people that are trying to give away their education to high school students right now.
I don't need curriculum.
Yep.
I don't need curriculum. And I will tell you, a lot of the text I use might not be this year's text because we're looking at core foundational principles. And when the administration comes down here and says, you need to update your text, I throw them out, and it's not a pretty conversation, because it just means a whole bunch of work for me.
Yeah.
And to me, and not to insult anyone that designs LMS, it's got its place.
It does,
But
for sure.
me, from an educational standpoint, LMS is a data collection process. And if we implement this and get this put out through so many schools, and we can print a report that says that we have 57,682 students sign up for the LMS, well, that's wonderful. How many texts came from that? How many actual texts came from that? So
because of that, yes. How many
correct,
texts came
right,
because
are
of
a
that?
result of that. So Kia Hyundai reached out earlier this week, and they're courting our school, which is fabulous. But the original conversation started off from, here's our LMS. And my response was, that's nice. I said, where is our work-based learning plan to go along with this? Question mark, question mark, question mark. And it was and the response was, well, that's not really what we do. And I says, well, that's what we do. I said, so I'll tell you what, I can help you out with that. I said, I have no problem signing up students that are interested and that are guaranteed a spot for a work-based learning experience. And the caveat to it is they need to do modules X, Y, and Z in order to participate. I said, we're in. I said, you'd let me know when, where, and we'll make that happen. And I understand there is disconnect between corporate and then the individual dealers that, but there is a lot of partnership there, and there actually is a lot of willingness if they understand, again, that we have the work-based learning model set up. Because as soon as you start saying, hey, we got the pieces, we got all of it here. If you're willing to guarantee some spots for some students, I will sign up those students, and only those students, that are going to be taking place at the work-based learning experiences, because at the end of the day, I'm not interested in participating in data collection. I have no use for it. But I am interested in creating individual opportunities for those students. So if we can ensure that they are going to get that, I have 2 students that are going through CIT trucking, and they came out, they interviewed them, they liked them. Those 2 students did some LMS, some work, but some online learning, and then they're both now doing, live work-based learning experiences. I'm all in.
Yeah. And I
That's
couldn't
the
agree
key.
more.
That's the key with that, right? But the problem is like, wait a minute, the LMS, I can fire it off and I can collect data from 500 students at once. But over here, if we got to do this through a work-based learning experience, that's 1 student at a time. You're absolutely right, it is, because that's how it works. That's the key. That's the solution. And you have to accept that. It doesn't mean that you have to take on 20 students. Take on 1. Challenge yourself to take on 1 student. Give it a try, right? And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Then at least you can say you tried.
Our industry would be in such a better spot if everybody took that message and, took on that 1 kid that is interested in the industry and didn't kind of push it off to everybody else, and really took it seriously, to proactively do it, even when you don't need people. I think it's such a pain point in our industry. And I do see a shift, right? I've seen more and more good shops start to be open and accepting to this type of thing. I still don't know where we stand at as a percentage of the entire industry, but to me, those top tier shops are doing things a little differently. They're being more proactive. They're looking for learning opportunities for their people. And this is just a great program that the 2 of you have put together. I look forward to growing it even more. Hopefully it's not another 2 years before I talk to you guys again. But I do really respect what you're doing, and know that, in my conversations with the 2 of you, know that you're doing it for the right reasons, and truly appreciate you guys coming on the show today.
Well, and just a couple more things to end with, as far as, because we talked a lot about the industry side, but the education side, Sue and I have been traveling throughout the country over the past couple of years. We've been in Vegas, we've been in Phoenix, we've been in Atlanta. We're in Milwaukee in May, and then we're looking at, we just applied for a conference in San Antonio. And then Sue doesn't know this yet. I don't know. She checked her email like 10 minutes before this, but we're going to be presenting to the Illinois State Board of Education in June.
All right.
So,
congratulations.
Thank you. So we're really trying to get ourselves out there in front of the educators and all the people in charge of education, saying, this is the direction that you need to go if you want the businesses to open the doors to you. Right. And we want Give Me 10 endorsed. If we can get what we want it endorsed nationwide. We want this to be the model, and this the forefront of work-based learning. So from the educator standpoint, if you're an educator looking at how do I start, it's Give Me 10. And if you are a business looking at how can I help, it's Give Me 10. So, and there's all sorts of different facets, different ways, different angles that we can get you involved, from the small independent shops to small little businesses up to the great big corporations, small school districts kind of out on their solo, on their own, that's very rural, up to, your great big metropolitan areas. The way we see it, it starts with the simple ask, will you give 10 hours to a student?
Very well said.
And I look at it with industry. You're unsure of the direction. Could you give 10 hours to a local school and see where you fit, where your business fits, where you can collaborate with that school? So I'm asking business owners, go out, give 10 hours to a local school. It might take you a couple years to give that 10 hours because you're going only for an hour here and an hour there. I'm asking you to build a relationship with the school to see where you can fit and help, right? And then you can give 10 hours to a local student. So simplify everything. I think life has gotten very complicated for a business owner. We're all chasing our tails just to make ends meet and make that ROI. But Jack and I have figured out a simplified way of basically bringing somebody into your shop or business and providing them a learning experience so that person can grow within your business and not interrupt your workflow. So you still become profitable at the end of the day. And so you check both boxes. You're checking the growth of your business, and you're also checking growing an employee, relationships with the local schools, which I think we've gotten away from. We're not going to these advisory meetings. We need to go there. We need to talk about what we need in our industry, and we need to take the dirty job out of what we actually do every day, because it is no longer looked upon that way. We're not the guy that couldn't really make it at school or college or whatever. We all make a pretty nice living, and we have a lot of things to offer. And I think we need to start looking at it and talking about it.
Couldn't say it better myself. I applaud what both of you are doing. Look forward to following the continued growth and really inevitable growth. I think what you're doing is phenomenal. So again, thank you so much for being on the show today, and best of luck in the future. If somebody wants to learn more about Give Me 10, where do they go to?
Giveme10.org, and that's TEN.org. And check us out on the website, send us a message, and let's connect.
All right.
You can also, from the education standpoint, the school that I work for is techcampus.org. Right now we're running our raffle car. $10 to win a 2013 Lincoln MKZ rebuilt by my auto service and collision repair programs. Winner need not be present. You can buy as many tickets as you want. Go to the website, top tab, raffle car, watch the promotional video. Talks a lot about Give Me 10, a lot about our principles and what we do. And it's another great example of community outreach, how businesses can collaborate with education, which is one of the missions of Give Me 10.
I am really glad you said that. I am really sorry we didn't get to that, because that was that is such a huge thing and such a huge deal that you're doing. A really nice car that somebody's going to win through that raffle, and all going to a good cause. So thanks again to both of you. Hope to see you again here sometime soon. That wraps up another episode of Beyond the Wrench. If you liked this episode, please show your support by rating and following the podcast. You can also watch the video interviews on WrenchWay's YouTube channel. Speaking of WrenchWay, did you know Beyond the Wrench is managed and produced by the WrenchWay team? WrenchWay is an online community dedicated to promoting and improving automotive and diesel careers. We help technicians find the best shops to work at, and we also help auto, diesel, and CTE instructors get more support from local industry. You can learn more by visiting wrenchway.com.